friends, welcome to my channel class study 11. Okay, since most of the students have not got books because of the lockdown, so I am going to read the English book of chapter The Portrait of a Lady by Kushwan Singh so that they could listen and understand very well. My grandmother, like everybody's grandmother, was an old woman. She had been old and wrinkled for 20 years that I had known her. People said that she had once been young and pretty and had even had a husband, but that was hard to believe. My grandfather's portrait hung above the mantelpiece in the drawing room. He wore a big turban and loose fitting clothes. His long white beard covered the best part of his chest, and he looked at least 100 years old. He did not look the sort of person who would have a wife or children. He looked as if he could only have lots and lots of grandchildren. As for my grandmother being young and pretty, the thought was almost revolting. She often told us of the games she used to play as a child that seemed quite abstract and undignified on her part, and we treated it like the fables of the prophets she used to tell us. She had always been short and fat and slightly bent. Her face was a crisscross of wrinkles running from everywhere to everywhere. No, we were certain she had always been as we had known her, old, so terribly old that she could not have grown older and have swayed at the same age for 20 years. She could never have been pretty, but she was always beautiful. She walked about the house in spotless white with one hand resting on her waist to balance her stove and the other telling the beads of her rosary. Her silver looks like were scattered untidily over her pale, puctured face and her lips constantly moving in audible prayer. Yes, she was beautiful. She was like the winter landscape in the mountains, an expanse of pure white serenity, breathing peace and contentment. My grandmother and I were good friends. My parents left with her when she went to live in the city and we were constantly together. She used to wake me up in the morning and get me ready for school. She said her morning prayer is the monotonous sing-song while she bathed and dressed me in the hope that I would listen and get to know it by heart. I listened because I loved her voice but never bothered to learn it. Then she would fetch my wooden slate while she had already washed and plastered with yellow chalk, a tiny earthen ink pot and a red pen, tie them all in the bundle and hand it to me. After breakfast of thick stall chapati with a little butter and sugar spread on it, we went to school. She carried several stall chapatis with her for village talks. My grandmother always went to school with me because the school was attached to the temple. The priest taught us the alphabet and the morning prayer, while the grandchildren sat in rows on either side of the veranda singing the alphabet or the prayer in the chorus. My grandmother sat inside reading the scriptures. When we had both finished, we both walked back together. This time, the village dogs would meet us at the temple door. They followed us to our home and growing and fighting with each other for the chapatis we threw to them. When my parents were comfortable settled in the city, they sent for us. That was the turning point in our friendship. Although we shared the same room, my grandmother no longer came to school with me. I used to go to an English school in a motor bus. There were no dogs in the streets, and she took to feeding sparrows in the courtyard of our city house. As the years rolled by, we saw less of each other for some time. She continued to wake me up and get me ready for school. When I came back, she would ask me what the teacher had taught me. I would tell her English words and little things of Western science and learning, the law of gravity, Archimedes' principle, the world being round, etc. This made her unhappy. She could not help me with my lessons. She did not believe in the things they taught in the English schools and was distressed that there was no teaching about God and the scripture. One day I announced that we were being given music lessons. She was very disturbed to her music had lewd association. It was the monopoly of harlots and beggars and not meant for gentlefolk. She said nothing, but her silence meant disapproval. She rarely talked to me after that. When I went up to university, I was given a room of my own. The common link of friendship was snapped. My grandmother accepted her seclusion with resignation. She rarely left her spinning wheel to talk to anyone. From sunrise to sunset, she sat by her wheel, spinning and reciting prayers. One in the only afternoon, she relaxed and for a while to feed the sparrows, while she sat in the veranda breaking the bread into little bits, hundreds of little birds collecting round her, creating a veritable bedlam of chirrupings. Some came and perched on her legs, others on her shoulders. Some even sat on her head. She smiled, but never shooed them away. It used to be the happiest half hour of the day for her. When I decided to go abroad for further studies, I was sure my grandmother would be upset. I would be away for 5 years, and her age one could never tell. But my grandmother could. She was not even sentimental. She came to leave me at the railway station, but did not talk or show an emotion. Her lips moved in prayer. Her mind was lost in prayer. Her fingers were busy telling the beads of her rosary. Silently she kissed my forehead, and when I left I cherished from the moist imprint as perhaps the last sign of physical contact between us. But that was not so. After 5 years I came back home and was met by her at the station. She did not look a day older. She still had no time for words, and while she clasped me in her arms, I could never her reciting her prayers. Even on the first day of my arrival, her happiest moments were with her sparrows, whom she fed longer and with frivolous rebuks. In the evening, a change came over her. She did not pray. She collected the women of the neighborhood, get an old drum, and started to singing. For several hours, she thumped the saggy skins of the dilapidated drum and sang of the homecoming of warriors. We had to pursue her to stop to avoid overstraining. That was the first time since I had known her that did not pray. The next morning she was taken ill. It was a mild fever, and the doctor told us that it would go. But my grandmother thought differently. She told us that her end was near. She said that since only a few hours before the close of the last chapter of her life she had omitted to pray. She was not going to waste any more time talking to us. We protested, but she ignored our protest. She lay peacefully in bed, praying and telling her beads. Even before we could suspect, her lips stopped moving and the rosary fell from her lifeless finger. A peace pallor spread on her face, and we knew that she was dead. We lifted her off the bed and is customary laid her on the ground and covered her with a red straw. After a few hours of mourning, we left her alone to make arrangement for her funeral. In the evening, we went to her room with a crude scratcher room and veranda with a blaze of golden light. We stopped halfway in a courtyard. After all over, veranda and in her room, right to where she lay dead and stiff wrapped in the red straw. Thousands of sparrows sat scattered on the floor. There was no chirping. We felt sorry for the birds, and my mother fetched some bread for them. She broke it into little crumbs. After the way my grandmother used to, and threw it to them. The sparrows took no notice of the bread. When we carried my grandmother's crops off, they flew away quietly. Next morning, the sweeper swept the breadcrumbs into the dustbin. If you like my channel, subscribe, like, and comment. If you have any doubt, just ask me. Okay? Thank you.